the Shenanigans Motorsports number 11 Junior Late Model at Sunset Speedway, and you are watching ONTrack Weekly.
Everybody, Cam K back with you here on ONTrack Weekly on GeForce TV. I'm surprised I'm here, actually. I've been having a bit of a time, man. Sore throat and no voice, but we gave it our all, and we're gonna go as long as the motor will last here. But man, we got lots of stuff to talk about today from Motorama 2024. eBay Motors put on a great show once again. The team at Motorama, just a phenomenal event. This is my third Motorama, and by far the most packed. It seems like it's gotten progressively bigger and bigger and bigger every year. The Russ brothers were there. What an amazing headliner. They were phenomenal. Spent extra time with fans early in the morning before the show started, after the show ended, hanging around with people all day long. Pictures, just the friendliest guys out there, and that was great. Absolutely great stuff. And Greg McPherson, Dave Weber, Bryce Turner, the entirety of the team. I know I'm forgetting one of the other guys' names, and unfortunately it's slipping my mind. But thanks to Donna Tolton, I got my nice new Trevco Motorsports tumbler to keep my cold water in. My man Philly D for some advice to help get everything back in working order for running the show tonight. But and then Jamie Dyson and Dave White, everybody at WMI for the sweater, making sure we wrap WMI here on the show. And man, it is a comfy sweater too. I'm not normally a 3X, and this is spacious and comfortable, so definitely make sure to reach out and get your WMI gear as well. But we're here. GeForce TV was at the show as well. Adam Ross, Clint Jeffrey, there with the Oshweekend Speedway booth. Glenn Stiers was there on the Friday. And myself was around all 3 days at the Boneyard Event Services podcasters booth. Myself from Stickers and Scuffs. John Morrison from Jomo Media, Brandon Feeney from the Feeney Call, the Wide World Motorsports, Bracket Life, and the Southern Ontario Dirt Show all made appearances over the weekend, and this was huge for us podcasters. We never thought getting an opportunity like that would be possible, and Greg McPherson and got in his ear basically after the show last year and said, like, we need a spot. Is it possible that we could have a spot where we can do interviews and we can have a place where people can find us? And that was the biggest thing, is being able to find us in the show, because they get so busy. Now, I do think that there are still some things that we can fix and improve for sure. Before I go any further, I also have to thank Morgan Moore, the captain, who was able to hang out with a little bit at the show, for doing my intro tonight. And she did a great job. I know I've got her 2023 paint scheme, not the 24 paint scheme up on the car, are up on the screen, but the one I had a pole in front of it, so I don't want to have a limited view of that beautiful number 11 done by Redline. There's definitely a lot of great stuff from the show. I think the biggest outlook, especially in terms of the motorsports side of things, was the interest that there was. Talked to Mighty Wipes, talked to Corey at 2Speed. They had phenomenal weekends. Pam was pretty much sold out of her Mighty Wipes after all 3 days, which is phenomenal for them. And then 2Speed talked to Corey, and he had him, Joe, and the entire team out there had a great weekend in terms of a sales, which that's what you want. Ilium Industries, Darren and Warren sold a couple chassis as well. Sunset Speedway sold some laps. They had lots of merch. They had driver autographs. NASCAR Canada was there as well. They had a pretty stacked roster of drivers. 2 reveals right in the middle of the racing zone. Ryan Dyson, JRD Motorsports, revealing their cars. Great Lakes Legends were there. It's such a good show to do reveals and make connections. OSS was there. We love our spot, the premier spot, I think. Get the cars right at the front of the entranceway, and so they get seen. And we finally got to meet some people that we've been talking with for a long time, and it is Carol Dawson, for example, was up on the screen just a little bit ago, and in the connection with stickers and scuffs, and thankful for Glenn, thankful for Clinton, Adam, Spencer. They gave us this opportunity with me on this show, but also allows me to promote a little bit about our stuff that we do, and I think that's the idea, is to promote short track racing, and it's just such a great blessing. Obviously, we want to be able to build momentum into 25. I think we've got some ideas for the future on how to continue to improve. I think there's a lot of ways to cross promote with different podcasters, and continue to build momentum for Canadian motorsports, because that's what we need. I mean, I think everybody knows that it is a very difficult thing for racers. There's not a ton of opportunities to go out and make connections, and I do think that while it is a great show, it is very limited in terms of being able to get it away from that crowd and get good conversation in. So I'm not going to tell you McPherson Motorsports who won the podcaster slot car race. You got to go on to Jomo Media on YouTube. They've posted, so you'll be able to check out who won the slot car race. I wasn't a part of it, unfortunately. I was just too busy all weekend. I don't think I anticipated that it would have been as busy as it was. But you know what? For me, it's just getting the content and getting to the racers, getting the decals out to people. Doing that all yourself is it was a little bit taxing, but you know what? The show continues to show that I think we're going to need a little bit more room. Personally, I think. I mean, it might sound a little crazy here, but I do think that the motorsports section, if we got a second hall or even just a second or expanded space, I think in all honesty, I actually believe this may have been a little bit too small of a venue for the motorsports section. I know we're in hall number 2, but it just gets a little bit tight with trying to do the autograph sessions in that section, and there's a lot of people that don't go straight into the motorsports. They just want to walk through, and just from my own suggestion, I obviously would love it if the whole show was motorsports. But even getting, if there's an way that we can get, for a perfect example, like DJ Kennington's Castrol Edge Dodge was at the auto show but wasn't here. So that's one of those things, like I if we can find a way to make sure we get as much possible. Same with Tej and Tags being at the Quebec show but not the Ontario show. Obviously it just based on the connections and the money behind it and the sponsorship and all that, but there's the benefit for racers is just exposure. And it is a task to get everything done by March. People are notoriously slow and take their time, which they should. Getting stuff ready, but it is a way to continue to grow. Each one of those podcasters is going to have content. That content's going to be seen by the people in it, then shared by those people, seen by more people. I've started uploading content today from our podcast, and I've been using like 4 different platforms to try and get it out there, and that's the way to I think we got to do it, right? And I want to congratulate the wide world of motorsports. Got themselves on a race car for the first time and got themselves a partnership. And that's what this whole weekend is about. Unfortunately, yeah, it did seem like the amount of I've got to agree with Brendan Burnett that the amount of cars, it did seem to be less. I think there was more exhibits in the racing zone this year, which was great. The amount of racers that were there was through the roof. The idea, though, I think, is what we want people to come in and not skip by the racing zone. We want people to come in and learn, and the amount of kids, I think, seeing the amount of race cars, having guys like Keaton Pipe there, Ollie Ferguson, Lucas Chapman, younger racers, it speaks to the younger generation, and they're able to speak to the kids because they're seeing a kid do what most kids don't, which is race cars. Very multicultural presence, which is what you want. We want more people in motorsports. Doesn't matter the orientation, does not matter their background. The more and more people that you can bring to the racetrack, the better. Calvin Reeser, who I got to meet, and I'm really excited to have as part of the SNS Racing family this year. I used Motorama as a way to catch up with friends and talk to a potential sponsor. Finally met you. Yeah, great success this year. I agree. Might have to move venues to fit everyone. I want to put a little bit of a focus on that too. It is primarily a custom car show that does feature motorsports. I think when you've got one hall, it's tough. I think, though, after speaking with Greg, I think that there is potentially options to have more bone stocks and mini stocks out there. I think it's tough because they obviously need a lot of money to put it on. If they can get as many cars in personally, if you had a track, every track that had the option to have 4 cars there, every series that had 4 cars there, it's gonna be really difficult because we always think about the short track side of it, but then there's also road racing, drag racing, super bikes, all those options are there. Obviously, as myself, I'm a little bit biased. Obviously, I want to see as many short track racing cars as possible, but it's not just about the spot. It's what I was thinking about was it was really hard to tell driver autographs that were going on in the NASCAR Canada side because it was at the booth. Same with Sunset had a little bit better, but my thought was either you have it even where we were, but the problem is the stage is right there, so there's kind of issues everywhere. But I thought if you have a specific area for the motorsports autographs to be done, so that way OSS, for example, if we're having autographs, it's at the autograph tables. And NASCAR Canada, it's at the tables. If it's at this, it's at the tables. And the problem is that you have to get then more staff because you need more security, because you need to, keep track of the lines. You need to cut off at certain times. You're limited in the amount of times that you can do that. And the court, like perfect example, when you have celebrities like that, you have to put kind of the need there first, because the lines to see Constance, the lines to see the Rust brothers were absolutely insane. I mean, my dad said, he went and seen Constance's line on the Friday where the high school kids were there, but he said the lineup for all the high school guys was out the door and into another hall. I was winding all over the place. All the high school boys trying to meet Constance for a good reason, I assume. But I'd love to see more of that, more autograph opportunities where people aren't just trying to push through, and I think that happens. OSS, I mean, it would have been nice if we had a little bit more room. We had guys that we didn't have enough room to get through, and to have all of our drivers signing autographs. Oh, stop it, Brandon. But that even us for example, I love that Boneyard Event Services, they did us a solid, and the show did as well, by giving us that spot. Ideally, we'd want probably somewhere a little bit further away, not so much in the middle, but I do think people tend to avoid the outside. And if we went to the outside, it gives us away from the speakers, away from the big crowd noise. The big crowd noise is primarily in the center of the show because people are filtering through. So if we had a section kind of off to the side, away from the speakers, you're not getting that background there. But that's things that we can work on. I mean, this is the first time I think that they've had this, and Boneyard putting that stuff up for us was phenomenal. I think that there's ways that we can continue to do it. Having the setup the way it was good too. It's true, like, can't beat right next to the food court as well, but yeah, we did. We had prime spot, and that's the hard part, Brandon, right? Is we're in the best spot and for being seen, really. When you come in, you can see us right from the entranceway, but the other side of it too is for actually getting the content. It's okay, except for the fact that now if we had some sort of a divider, that would have probably been better. If we had actually in the back section there, it probably would have been easier. And I think it's just a matter of learning as well, like what works. Maybe the tables having some set up there where you're doing more of a face-to-face interview is probably better. But the thing is that we're talking about this after the show, and I'm already thinking about ways that we can continue to grow and continue to build here, because aside from me still running all over the place, which I did a lot, having people come to the show and know where you are made things a bajillion times better. There's no way we'd have been able to do all that, years and years and years. It's definitely exciting stuff, and Greg and you know what? I'm going to give a call to Bryce as well. Not enough people give Bryce Turner enough love. Bryce, Stephen Ellis, Kendra Adams. Kendra. Okay, so I'll start with that. Kendra Adams did her Short Track Ontario podcast, which is really the first Ontario racing podcast I ever knew. And then Can Race with Bryce, Caitlin Patrick, and Stephen Ellis, Alex Gallagher. They were the first to do podcasting. They focused a lot on the NASCAR Canada series, and Kendra was kind of focusing all over, but they were the ones to do it. it was fine in terms of like the audio for everything was fine, Scott. The issue was trying to talk and having the noise kind of in your ear, the speaker going. So personally, again, I would have done it even a little bit lower than what it was. It got to be, you're able to learn how to tune it out. But the other thing too is adjusting where you're doing it. If you're standing up, it's a little bit harder. If you're sitting down, it was actually much easier to tune it out. And again, I think it's all about learning. That's really it. Yeah. So McPherson Motorsports says need to get a car or two that people can get into for pictures and experiences. I didn't see any race cars letting kids in them. I don't believe they're allowed to do that. For I believe the reasons is then everybody is going to want to do it, and they're trying to keep people, I think, filtering through the show instead of kind of stuck all at one spot, which I totally get. And I think, like I said, I think for Motorama, they've got to be thrilled, because if you were there Saturday, holy moly, I couldn't believe how many people were there. It was just nonstop, go. And really from 10 a.m. all the way until I would say it started to really die off at like 7. Like right after they finished the Night of Champions, people really started to filter out. You got an hour left of the show, right? But it really never stopped being full, which was great. The Saturday was fantastic. Yeah. So, and that's the thing too. Al says here on Saturday it was 1 hour to get parked. And that's the other thing that I heard a lot was the traffic situation was awful. Which is crazy because I thought that it looks like there was a decent amount of parking there, but I mean, I wasn't there. Yeah, I mean, obviously I would love to see as many representation, Sauble having some cars up there, and more and more, really. I mean, hot rods, we take more of those. And yeah, the trailers, they take up a lot of space, as Carly says. And I think they make the trailers park in the back lot. There's tons of parking. It's getting in and out. That's the problem. So my understanding as well, Scott, was that they did not have, police presence there until well after 11. And by then the backlog was already set. When we went for lunch, it was just countless lines of people going out, and but again, sure, we could talk about like that's bad and it sucked and stuff, but I'd much rather it being that busy than no one showing up. It is the coolest thing to have a show that you have so many going to, and I think a lot of people had no idea about racing still, and we're gonna continue to work on this. I think that's the thing, is more people, more series, more tracks, more drivers you can get out, the more opportunities. Hopefully you can land some partnerships. It's all about what you can do for those partners. Obviously, like Lucas Chapman got a ton of love, as he should have, being out there, being a kid with a bone stock at 10 years old. It makes a lot of sense why he had so much attention. The kids definitely, the amount of kids there was fantastic. That's what you want to see. You need kids. They're the future of racing, and having our veterans and trying to make the names week to week to week known. it's a good sign. It really is. You know, I obviously, I know people have opinions on the way things are going, but you know, racing, I'm totally okay with hybridization of vehicles if it does help the government, but not the government, the environment. Screw the government. but what we know is that racing is not going to take that turn here. That's not going to happen. And I was pleasantly surprised to see the investment from a lot of companies there this time, that I feel like, I feel there was more. I feel there was more than I ever would have thought. Booths for sure, people for damn sure. I don't know how much bigger though the Undercare Center is, Scott. The accessibility though, you're not fighting people in the airport, right? That's the difference, Scott, is like the airport's not, that's one thing. Whereas I kind of, it's almost double, but then you also have the option for people to take the GO train to get there. I know you can do the same there as well. But would they do free? Is it free park? It's not free parking at the International Center, or free parking and easy access. Oh yeah, it's tough, man, because you gotta have it where people from outside the city can access it really easily, and no one in their right mind wants to drive in downtown Toronto, so it's a hard sell. I mean, obviously, the show is the best choice, though. There's no debating it. But if they continue, I know Greg and I had talked, and he had said, you know, like this is looking fantastic, and that's so good to hear. It is so good to hear. And if you can get people interested in racing, I said we've got so many people that are in the country that don't know anything about racing, that have perhaps come from places that they've never seen racing, that have businesses, that have money. And that's what you kind of need. We need fresh faces. We need fresh blood, because people can't keep flooding to Two-Speed Motorsports, to Quick Wick, to APC, to LRR, to Two-Speed, I think I said Two-Speed, to Mighty Wipes. That's just, it's not realistic. It chases companies away when people all rush to try and get money from those companies. But even as something as small as just getting product, some people look at that as a bit of a demotion, and that you're not getting the right, like you're not getting what you want. But I think right now, off-road racing, Scott has a good point that they didn't really have that. Mid-pack bone stock feature at Sunset in Midtown Toronto during rush hour is the same. Show the new companies lots of love, buy their products, take pictures of their products. Yes. The one thing, again, people still have the hands out. They're looking for money and not doing anything. I had a great conversation with one of the people at the show, and they had said this, basically, what is it that they can do for me? Because I've got the business, you know, I'm not really struggling for the business. So what is it that they're going to do that I can't do myself? I mean, that's a pretty bold statement, and racers have to be on it. I mean, I'm going to say Keaton Pipe and Keaton Pipe Racing, they're doing Ollie and Ollie Strong Racing. You have to be on the socials like no one's business. Now, again, CalPro's doing it the right way, shooting promos with partners. You kind of have to do whatever you can, and you're gonna have to kiss ass, and you're gonna have to you're going to have to, take your opinion and put it to the side. I know it sounds kind of crazy to people, but you really kind of have to do whatever you can. And that means, what you're passionate about in terms of your opinion, it's got to go away. It's got to go away. You got to be okay with kind of everything. If somebody says something that you don't like, well, you know what? Then bury it. You don't need to be going off doing all this. And I got a sponsor lined up and no money was handled, but they simply helped me with some financial stuff. I mixed up for taxes. A great guy. A lot of guys want money and accept it. I've taken free food. You know what? We had this conversation, Brandon, with, I can't even remember the racer because we've talked so many, but it may have been Trevor Monahan actually, and he talked about, like, it wasn't an exchange of money, but he definitely had told me that they got food donated for race day, and then you're feeding your whole crew, but you're not having to dig out of your pocket for that. I think it was Clinton Jeffrey, actually. Clinton Jeffrey was the guy I talked to about this. And he had said, you got to be able to do that. It's not all about actually getting money in the hand. We had a great talk with a gentleman named Phil. I'm wondering, Sam, if it's the same Phil that I know, because I may have talked to him too. And he was really impressed with Morgan. That's what you want, though, right? You want people to come in and be really impressed. I mean, obviously, we give people autographs, give people interviews, and which is fantastic. You got to share it, right? You got to show people what your personality is, how you can talk. There's some kids that I was blown away with how well they speak. Ollie, for example, last year, he couldn't talk for a lick, and now he's back this year, and he's like an old pro at it. It hyped me up because hearing people get their personalities out it shows what people can offer, And I see people, like, I have my opinions on stuff too, and like I said earlier, I don't, if things can be done for, yeah, Sam, I know that's a good buddy myself that I know exactly who you're talking about, and that would be a great thing. And he should be impressed with Morgan as well. She's another one that we talked with, and getting some of those kids to open up and talk. I can't imagine being that young and doing a show like this. Lucas is 10 years old, and Morgan 12, and it's intimidating talking to people all day long. I'm 32, and it got to be a little overwhelming at times, and thankfully John Morrison and Brandon Feeney told me to chillax a little bit, which is what I need, because I try to please everybody and do whatever I can to continue to help at my own expense, unfortunately. But I think 2024 is going to be a big year. But it's going to be a big year for multiple things. I mean, get out there, guys, and do what you can. Put your best effort that you can on the racetrack, and show people that it's not just a bunch of rednecks. So you got an opportunity to really grow and show that there's a lot of smart people in racing, brilliant people, but not just smart, but personable, and can be the face of a product, can be somebody that businesses can be proud of. It's so easy to jump on board and support a hockey team because hockey is everywhere. It's going to be tough. I know Brandon Burnett's trying to get me to get myself on fire here by asking me who my championship picks are. It's It's definitely going to be close. That's for sure. It's going to be... and you know what? Sunset is obviously the one that I'm more familiar with. So, but I can't really say yet, Brandon, because we don't have full registration numbers yet. But in terms of all sorts of different names, obviously, I think you have to look at the guy that's already in the conversation here in the bone stocks as he's coming back to run full time, and that's that 49 car, Calvin Reeser. He's somebody that you're going to have to look out for. He's coming back, and I don't know if the field's ready for that, frankly. It's going to be a really tight field in the bone stocks, and Josh Berry is somebody I've been told by multiple people is somebody you're going to have to watch this year. And in the mini stocks are a crapshoot. Honestly, Doug Butler's, I believe he's not going to do full-time this year, so that opens it up a little bit. The name would be Tyler Seaboyer. I think he's the one. You can't count out Jason D'Antimo, but then you add in guys like Jacob Sutcliffe. You add in Ryder White. There is a lot of good competition. Add in Cameron McGlashan, Andrea Lusk. And Austin Janet, I think, is somebody who gets maybe thrown under the radar a little bit, but he's somebody else that could have a breakout season as well. He showed a lot of promise last year. Hot rods, definitely. You got to watch out for Dan Archibald, Amanda Balson, Tom Walters is always the threat. But then having Tyler Hahn coming in from, and it's funny, he's just on the screen right now, coming in from Oscar. I believe he's going to try and do full time. And obviously, a kid who I actually really liked talking with, who was also, I think his dad was still in the chat here, was Ben McPherson. I think he's also got a pretty good shoulder. He's got a good head on his shoulders, for sure. I'm curious to see how the numbers are in terms of those bone stocks. They're a little bit lower than the minis, I think, last year, but minis pretty good. Hot rods, mods, I don't really know. I would say I'm going to pull for Wally as much as I can, but Wally would definitely be up there. Junior Lates, Keegan, he's definitely up there. I would say Keegan's going to be a contender to win back-to-back. Rumor is Ricky Walt potentially back too. If that's the case, Brandon, then he's probably up there as one of the favorites to win the championship. Dustin Monberquette is somebody else I have a lot of respect for. I think the kid's really, really good. Kendra Adams went out and got herself a really good pro late as well. So I'm hoping her and if Sammy Shaw can get a full-time, if she's in there full-time this year, she showcased a lot, and we're definitely Sunset is in for. And you know what, we got to give a call, and I haven't been lucky enough to chat with Spencer, but he was in full promotion mode with Brendan this week, and those guys just, they get it, and their Sunset is just absolutely killing it with their promotional side, and I think a lot of tracks got to continue to grow that way. You have to showcase your racers. You have to talk about racers. You have to talk about as much as possible. We entered a partnership with Sunset with our podcast, and we're going to be out there. We're going to talk some more with Brian and Sandra and try and have our tent presented by Epic, and have a spot in the garage, in the paddock. We not going to be there every week. I mean, that's the thing, is ONTrack Weekly does mean on track, but it doesn't mean it's always going to be at the same track. As much as I'd love it, I also still am in the process of learning how to drive. So most of the time I rely on rides to get to the racetrack, back and forth. And physically, I can't do every single week. But, I think we're getting there. And yeah, I did realize once again, I forgot the super stocks. I think probably that might be the tightest field actually this whole year. I know I've said mini stocks can be good and bone stocks, but at Sunset especially, the super stock division is friggin' stacked this year. Colton Everingham back, and like you said, Brandon in his old championship car. You got Jacob Booth out there, who obviously is going to be even better than he was when he was in the bone stocks, winning championships. Johnny Morrison is somebody that you can never count out, ever. Miles Tyson's coming back to Sunset in 2024 after winning a championship. You go down the list of names, and it is it's insane, the talent level and the amount of entries that Sunset's looking at this year. Peterborough is looking really good. I've actually pretty well, most people, McFerrin too. Oh, if McFerrin's there, I'm excited now, because Brandon he's a good shoe. He's a good racer, and who knows? He maybe Garrett Teamersma comes back, and maybe Marley Owen makes a transfer over. I mean, right now we really don't know what's happening. Flamborough, I still feel like they're working on some things, and got to try and build a little bit and see what they can do. Sobel, I know they're working hard on trying to get their counts up, and talked to a couple guys this week, and they're planning on taking their bone stocks out there. Brando, you got to look at Brandon. You got to look at potentially taking you and Curtis and the crew and head on up to Sobel, do one of their bone stock events up there. I don't know if you guys are up for taking the track, but they've got that available. It's going to be a great year, and Motorama showed it. It definitely did. And I think we're on the way. It's on the schedule. There you go, buddy. I'm glad to hear it. And as long as people don't act like donkeys like last year, we really don't need that. I mean, we don't need people doing stupid stuff on the racetrack and taking us back to looking like a bunch of morons. We don't need that, right? We don't need people going off and fighting people and accusing, and we don't need that. We need positive momentum, not negative momentum. And unfortunately, the only time racing gets brought up in Ontario, it seems like on the news, is when there's a big wreck and somebody does something. Well, we're going to start working on changing that. Bring back as much positivity as possible can. Fields are good, man. We've got lots of talent, and like I said, the amount of people that were out at the racetrack this week, Delaware's looking fantastic. APC's looking fantastic. Oscar's looking fantastic. The Legends are looking fantastic. Every single place is looking good. You got talks of bandos coming up. I'm personally okay with just keeping junior lates, but if it's going to put more butts in seats, if it's going to, result in classes still being successful, as long as it doesn't hurt, that's all I care about. As long as it does not hurt, that's all I want. NASCAR Canada, we need a bit more work on the Ontario side, and costs, I think, need to be a little bit adjusted overall in all racing. But people need to get off their ass and go out and speak to companies, door to door, drop off as many letters as you can, talk to people on social media, do whatever you can. This is the year that we can do it. Us podcasters, we see it. We see the efforts that people are putting in, and they deserve it. They deserve partners, and from Varney to mini trucks to all over, really. It's going to be great. And again, throwing out major thanks, everybody involved in the Motorama show. You deserve a huge applause. Everybody that was an exhibit, that had a booth there, thank you. Everybody that brought their car out, thank you. Everybody that was on stage, I was lucky enough to get to interview the Trevco team on stage, Nathaniel Greenaway, Laura Authier, and Kevin Trevelyan, and then had an Ontario racing panel with Tim Tolton and Jen Hatch and Junior Farley, and it was great. Saw Ryan Dyson on stage, Tenley, JTM, the Pepin team from CVM's out there, Tenley Pepin out on stage. Dan Bailey from Epic Racewear was out there. Lots of great stuff. Cam K is running out of steam, folks, because his voice is about gone, and I want to say thank you to everybody that came out and saw us, and thanks to Boneyard Event Services, thanks to G-Force TV for giving me a platform to talk Ontario racing. It's such a dream and an honor, and it's great. Honestly, it's phenomenal. I love seeing what we're about, but I think Cam K needs a good rest, and we'll be back next week with you guys here on G-Force. If you can, subscribe, share, and join us over at Stickers and Scuffs as well. Show some love to Jomo Media. The wide world of motorsports continue to grow. Motorsports in Ontario. Have yourselves a great night, everybody. We will catch you all